A brutal new ad hits Donald Trump where it hurts by exposing the disturbing dynamic between Trump and Elon Musk in a way which is equal parts hilarious and terrifying, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, before I show you this new ad from the Lincoln Project, I just want to remind you that we are in serious jeopardy of falling under a shadow premiership or prime ministership of Elon Musk, who, number one, holds no official formal position in the federal government yet, and has not been elected by anybody anywhere at any time to hold public office. And yet reports show, and we even saw this before the election, he is exerting a disturbing level of control and intimacy and influence over Donald Trump and the Trump campaign and the fledgling Trump administration. So with that context in mind, I want you to see this ad from the Lincoln Project. And it's one of the more brutal ones they've ever produced. And if you're familiar with their catalog, that's saying something.
The Lincoln Project salutes Vice President Donald Trump. As Vice President, Trump will finally have the time to do the things that make him happiest. Talk about old movies, playing on his phone, admiring the assets of other men. Meanwhile, President Musk can get down to the business of running the country. We at the Lincoln Project are confident that Donald Trump understands his position. Elon is smarter, wealthier, more charismatic, has a far superior and more successful social media platform and company, is more successful with women, and a better dancer. As President Musk and his assistant J.D. Vance select appointees and write policies, we feel certain Trump will play his part because he's a good boy. Who's a good boy? Trump's a good boy.
Ouch. So I say this hits Trump where it hurts because those of you who are familiar with Trump understand he's a malignant narcissist. He is a thin-skinned egomaniac who is constantly rendered upset and triggered by attacks against his virility, against his strength, against his competence, against his independence. And you can tell, obviously, that's what the Lincoln Project was attempting to do here, to troll Donald Trump. But there's a disturbing grain of truth to this. This is something that many people fear. And so we're going to look at some articles to really, substantiate the concerns and the strange dynamic between Musk and Trump. And we're going to start with Axios here because they've put together quite cutely a friendship timeline, why Musk and Trump could drift apart. So we're going to look at this. Musk's alliance with Donald Trump shaped the 2024 election and its aftermath, but longtime observers of both men doubt their honeymoon can last. The Trump-Musk power duo could fall out over appointments, competing interests, or just jealousy over sharing the spotlight. The two powerful men share an ego-driven temperament and view themselves as immune to the rules and norms which constrain others, as Axios' Mike Allen and Jim Van High report. The relationship has had many ups and downs. Musk backed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' failed bid in the GOP's 2024 primary, which DeSantis launched during a glitch-ridden live interview on Twitter in May of 2023. Not sure you all remember that, but that was profoundly embarrassing for the Florida governor and Musk himself. Trump's hawkish stance towards trade with China could harm Musk's EV business, specifically Tesla's Shanghai mega factory. Differences will inevitably emerge, Sarah Krebs, professor of law and director of tech policy at the Cornell Brooks School of Public Policy, told Axios, quote, "We now have a situation where neither of them has played number two. We're in Trump's domain of a public sector environment, and so Musk is having to be something other than a number one," Krebs said. Here's a timeline of Musk's support of Trump in 2024, leading the ex-owner to becoming the most powerful unelected man ever. And again, more on that in a minute. March 6th, Musk said that he won't donate to a candidate in the presidential election. Spoiler alert, he lied. He lied his ass off. That wasn't true. July 13th, Musk endorsed Trump on X minutes after Trump was ushered off stage by Secret Service agents at a rally in Pennsylvania. July 16th, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Tesla and Space CEO said that he would commit around $45 million a month to a new pro-Trump super PAC called America. Musk called it fake news on X later that day. August 12th, Musk hosted Trump on X for a conversation that turned into an extension of a campaign speech where he suggested that Trump should form a commission focused on government efficiency and appoint him to it. August 19th, Musk posted, "I am willing to serve." October 5th, Musk appeared at a Trump rally for the first time since his endorsement wearing a black Make America Great Again cap, and said, as you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. October 19th, Musk announced that he would give away $1 million a day to voters in swing states who've signed a petition from his America PAC to support free speech and the right to bear arms. November 6th, Trump was declared the winner of the presidential election, and Musk spent election night with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. November 12th, Trump announced that Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy would lead a Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is, of course, like the cryptocurrency, operating as an independent advisory group to cut government spending and streamline bureaucracy. November 16th, Musk said in a post on X that Howard Lutnick would enact change as Treasury Secretary, contrasting him with Scott Bessent, a potential Trump pick for the role, whom he called a, quote, business as usual choice. November 17th, Trump's pick of Republican Brendan Carr to lead the FCC won Musk's approval for Carr's attacks on what he called censorship by social media platforms. Brendan Carr is a Republican appointee of the FCC already. He was reappointed. He was first appointed by Trump, then reappointed by President Biden. And he is seen as very, very, very friendly to Musk's, business interests. And there's extensive reporting on this. So point for Musk. November 19th, however, Trump did not take Musk's suggestion and instead chose Lutnick to serve as Commerce Secretary. And he instead went with Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary. November 19th, Trump traveled to Texas to witness SpaceX's Starship launch beside Musk. Okay. Musk has helped shape the political discourse on X, with users encountering his and other conservative-leaning accounts more frequently since his endorsement of Trump, a New England University of Technology study finds. Okay, so we'll talk about that. However, there's also reporting to suggest that the bromance is tenuous, and so The Guardian is writing about this as well. But perhaps no figure better captures the cartoonish nature of Trump's staffing philosophy than Elon Musk, the literal richest man on earth who has somehow grabbed the wheel of a presidential transition that's navigating the road ahead about as well as one of his Teslas. From offering his 2 cents on presidential appointments, to joining calls with the Ukrainian president, to adjudicating the race for Senate Majority Leader via an X poll, the man who broke Twitter now has his sights set on breaking the federal government. He's poised to hack the budget, ramrod in his half-baked policy musings, and push through deregulation that will inevitably benefit his fleet of companies. Like any great rom-com, Musk and Trump got off to a rocky start. 2 years ago, before he donned a dark Gothic MAGA cap himself, Musk was urging Trump to hang up his hat, and Trump was calling Musk too chicken to buy Twitter. But then Musk did buy Twitter, and he began diligently turning it into a bastion of right-wing misinformation called X. The arc of this entanglement reached its inevitable conclusion when Musk rewired the platform's algorithm to promote his own conspiracies about immigrants and election interference, while also giving free advertisement to Trump to the tune of 2 billion views. Though Trump was already the first major party nominee to own a social media platform in Truth Social, he now essentially leases a second one for free. While Trump received support from the Musk-gatists, his voters received million-dollar checks for all of Musk's hand-wringing about ballot harvesting. He engaged in brazen election interference schemes where he more or less paid citizens to vote for Trump. Okay, and it goes on and on and on like this. Nevertheless, the patent absurdity of a Musk-Trump pact might just offer a silver lining for Democrats. First, analysts and casual observers alike remain skeptical of how long the honeymoon can last between 2 narcissists whose power is exceeded only by their pettiness. Their relationship, like Trump's coalition at large, is perilous and fragile. Second, Doge's recommendations are just that, non-binding. Trump himself has described Musk and Ramaswamy as offering, quote, advice and guidance from outside the government. That means the Doge is not actually a department, nor is it government, so its proposals can be dispensed with efficiency. This cuts both ways. The few worthy populist ideas that could expand the Trump administration's appeal, like reigning in the Pentagon, will never get past a Republican House of Representatives. And if they dare touch entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, there won't be a Republican House much longer. Musk is clearly attempting to emulate Trump's governing style, but Trump has consistently proven a more effective huckster than head of state. So that's another article. Rolling Stone has talked about the reports about Musk potentially overstaying his welcome. At this moment, Musk is a protected man in Trump world, in the good graces of key members of the Trump family, Tucker Carlson, and other MAGAville luminaries, and the president-elect, even though a few short months ago, Trump was privately trashing Musk as boring and awkward. It's also true, as multiple news outlets have reported lately, that a number of top aides and confidants in Trump's orbit have grown visibly annoyed at what they view as Musk's overstepping and ham-fisted meddling in the second Trump administration as it takes shape. Quote, "Please leave us alone," a Trump advisor tells Rolling Stone, characterizing the mood toward Musk and among some of those who are frustrated. Quote, "There is one president at a time." There are numerous sources close to Trump, big donors, incoming administration officials, lawyers, even some who like Musk, predicting that the Trump-Musk bond is not built to last. This is largely based on Trump's tendency to loathe sharing the national spotlight, as well as the inevitable friction you get when two titanically large egos, both of whom came into this 2024 alliance with wealth, fame, and political muscle, became so intertwined. There are some Republican figures who predict Musk just might get bored and bail. According to notes taken by a source who was on a Monday video conference call, Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, now at a consulting firm Actum LLC, told clients of the firm that when it comes to restructuring and overhauling the federal government, quote, Elon's going to find going to Mars is easier. So there is this notion that Musk is already annoying people with his presence because he doesn't understand how to run a government, and he's already inserting himself into every goddamn thing. So fingers crossed to see how this turns out. But the last thing I want to leave you with is kind of an assessment of the potential dangers that might befall the American people along the way, or if worst case scenario occurs and Musk and Trump somehow manage to navigate a long-term alliance despite the odds being against them, what that might look like. And so since Musk has flirted with the idea of buying MSNBC in order to own the libs and to deny a persistent critic of Donald Trump from exercising their voice, I thought it might behoove us to read an article from MSNBC called "Could Trump and His Billionaire Buddies Turn America into an Oligarchy?" Decades after the Supreme Court opened the door to buying influence, Musk's appointment risks entrenching corporate interests within the structures of government. So we're going to skip down a little bit, but Trump says he's referring to DOGE as an outside advisory commission to his administration, one that will drive large-scale structural reform. Its billionaire co-chairs say they want to slash government regulations and spending while downsizing the federal workforce. Trump has pledged to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget, though he has offered few specifics beyond that. For context, the total amount of discretionary spending in the federal budget is about $1.7 trillion. Discretionary spending does not include mandatory spending, which covers Social Security, Medicare, and other entitlement programs. This means Musk's proposed cuts would have to extend beyond discretionary spending, potentially targeting critical programs. Critics argue that such steep cuts would devastate working and middle-class Americans while leaving the wealthy untouched. In late October, Musk seemed to acknowledge this, stating that his proposed spending cuts would cause economic hardship for Americans. Quote, "We have to reduce spending to live within our means. And that necessarily involves some temporary hardship, but it will ensure long-term prosperity." It's easy for the world's richest man to say. And what's the deadline for this major overhaul of an entire government? Trump says that all of this will be completed no later than July 4th, 2026, roughly a year and a half from now. Musk, on the other hand, promises to be done much faster. The commission's position outside the formal government structure, which includes more than 400 actual departments, raises serious questions about how it will achieve Musk's goals. If Musk's management of social media platform X is any indication, the rush to restructure our government institutions should deeply worry you. Under Musk's leadership, X has lost 80% of its value, according to an October estimate from Fidelity. Beyond that, there are troubling questions about allowing billionaires unbridled access to our government institutions. Musk is the head of companies such as SpaceX and Starlink, which hold billions in federal contracts. SpaceX alone has received more than $15 billion in government contracts, including classified Pentagon deals. Musk's close ties to Trump are clearly well documented. He's been described by insiders as wanting to be seen as Trump's co-president. Yikes, people, yikes. His $200 million super PAC played a key role in getting Trump reelected, while his social media platform X significantly amplified the president-elect's political messaging. But with the creation of DOGE, Musk's influence is being formalized, rewarded even with a pseudo-government title. Consumer advocacy groups like Public Citizen have labeled the appointment, quote, "the ultimate corporate corruption." In a report published last month, the same group found, quote, at least 3 of Musk's businesses are currently under scrutiny for alleged misconduct by at least 9 federal agencies. That means Musk will now oversee the overhaul of the very same agencies tasked with investigating him. This is not the first time Trump has appointed billionaires to his administration. His first cabinet included billionaires such as Wilbur Ross, Rex Tillerson, and Betsy DeVos, all of whom face criticism for prioritizing private interests over the public good. But with Musk, critics say there's a major difference. Unlike Tillerson, who divested from ExxonMobil once he became Secretary of State, Musk appears to have no intention of stepping back from his businesses. There doesn't appear to be any safeguards at all against potential conflicts of interest this time around. Instead, Musk will retain control over Tesla and SpaceX, all while overseeing policies that could benefit his companies. So how could we get to this point? Progressive radio host Thom Hartmann, who, by the way, I interviewed at the DNC, he is a huge inspiration to me, just a titan of policy knowledge and progressive values. You should definitely check it out. He's on YouTube. Progressive radio host Thom Hartmann says that this is the culmination of decades of legal decisions that have normalized the role of money in politics. And it goes on and on and on like this, discussing also about Citizens United. The top 1% are no longer just influencing policy from behind the scenes. They are seizing control of the levers of power, a logical and perhaps inevitable consequence of allowing money to dominate our politics. The dynamic shift mirrors the dynamics of autocracies, where billionaires often blur the line between public office and private interest. A 2023 study found that billionaires are far more likely to hold office in autocracies and democracies, a trend that some fear could erode America's democratic foundations. As Trump's oligarchy begins to take shape, Jefferson speaks to us from his grave, a sobering warning of what happens when we entrust the keys to democracy to those who profit from its dismantling. And he's, of course, referring to President Jefferson, who said, those seeking profits, were they given total freedom, would not be the ones to trust to keep government pure and our rights secure. Indeed, it has always been those seeking wealth who were the source of corruption in government. There we are, folks. So again, a brutal nuke ad by the Lincoln Project. And again, they always put out very hard-hitting content. This is one of the hardest hitting. It will no doubt troll Donald Trump if it's brought to his attention. And I have no doubt that it will be. But despite the trolling and despite the hilarity and despite the jabs at Trump, there's a serious danger here, which is that Elon Musk will become the de facto president of the United States. And there's ample evidence to suggest that that is exactly what he wants. And we're at a point where this could be the most corrupt administration by far in the history of America, when that was already the case in Trump's first administration. But this one could put that one to shame. Food for thought. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.